There's been a lot of books that have sold a lot of copies. Some of them are crap, some of them are good. 50 Shades of Grey, more so on the crap side. Today we're talking about good to great. Now this book has sold a lot of copies and I believe it's actually really good. This is actually one of my favorite business books of all time, and I've read quite a few business books. I first heard about Good to Great through a picture on Reddit. Someone had literally posted a picture of all the things he got for free as a Microsoft intern, and it literally filled his entire room. He had t-shirts, he had software, he had big plush toys, all sorts of crap from working at Microsoft, which is just ridiculous. And I saw one book there, and it was Good to Great. It seemed like the CEO of Microsoft, maybe it was Bill Gates, maybe it was someone else, they realized how great this book was, so they literally gave free copies away. They bought a bunch and they just handed them out. So at first, as I always am, I'm always a bit skeptical. I'm just like, okay, that's interesting. And I put it into my biggest reading list, which is just like, worth considering, needs further research. But then I got deeper into it, and then I heard it being mentioned by various sources. So I was like, this is interesting. And then I eventually listened to the audiobook version of this, and I was blown away. Not a lot of books in business blow me away like this one did. If you haven't realized, I'm a bit of a hard science guy. I like facts, I like statistics, I like the truth, I like experiments, and I like numbers. And that's why, surprisingly enough, my number one most recommended book in terms of happiness and number one most recommended book in terms of dating, they both have a extensive amount of science, and they go into extreme detail and cover all the areas of. If you're interested in that, I'll leave links in the description for those recommendations. However, back to this book. This book is incredible and I highly recommend it. It is one of my favorite books in business, and I went into it not really expecting much. And let me just explain to you what this person does. It's actually a team of people. So this guy with his team literally does extensive research and data analysis. And what they do is that they look for a specific type of company. First, the company has to be publicly traded so that we can see extensive data, because public companies have to release that public data year in and year out, quarter in and quarter out. This company has to have 15 years of mediocre performance, at least 15 years. And then it has to have, over the next 15 years, incredible amounts of growth and profits. And literally they find the top companies that literally just knock it out of the park. And if you see the numbers behind these companies, they have literally done ridiculous things with profits, from going from mediocre sales and profit to multiples of profits that would make IBM, Disney, Coca-Cola be put to shame. And so they found these companies, and then they did extensive qualitative and quantitative research, and they try to figure out what is in common. What are the qualities that are in common with all of these businesses and all these companies that made them successful, that all of them have? And they're so stringent in their research too. If it only seemed like half or less than half of the companies had a certain trait or quality, they might mention it, but they would kick it out. They were very strict with. I was just very surprised about how strict and extensive the research was. And so it was it was an incredible book, and it just revealed some counterintuitive truths about how a business should be run. Things that you think would be one way, but then the research and data shows, no, it's the complete opposite. One of those things was the founder or leader or CEO of a company. They found that the successful ones were the ones who stayed with their company, and they found that the successful ones were almost always people who had been with the company for a while and had slowly been promoted up until their position. And also, these people oftentimes were very humble. They cared much more about the actual company and its growth and its core values them being the star CEO of the company, and for media and everyone to critically acclaim this person. And when you compared it to the comparison groups, and yes, they actually had control comparison groups. These were companies that were in the exact same industry, selling very similar products, who did not achieve any sort of, who were not profitable at all in these. So they even had experimental control groups for each of these companies. And what they found was that the ones who were like super awesome, when a company tried to bring in some superstar CEO from another company and he was really flashy with things, and he had this whole mentality of, I'm going to come in and change this company completely. Oftentimes it led to failure. So I'm not someone who believes in book summaries. I don't think, especially for books like Good to Great, that you can just get all the juice and all the amazing stuff from just listening to a 10-minute book review or book summary. So I highly encourage you to read or check out this book for yourself. I personally will read it again in my lifetime, unless something unfortunate happens and I die early, because it's just such an incredible book. And you really have to take notes, because you forget things if you just read it through. This is just an incredible book, but I don't think it is for everyone. It's definitely more focused on bigger companies, and a lot of the strategies and things that they found are oftentimes more suitable for bigger companies. Having said that, I do think that many of these things can still nonetheless be applied to a very small company, and I think that's one of the points that the author tried to make throughout this book. Honestly, I was checking out the Amazon reviews, and I'll leave a link in the description if you want to check it on Amazon. But literally, I saw people give it 1 star, even though the average rating was like 4.5 stars. And I was just like, why? How could this be? But I guess that's just what happens with every book. Like literally, if you see any book, there's always a critic who's giving it 1 star, no matter how great the book is. I think that's just a common theme when you have a large enough audience. Personally, I think there's a lot to be learned from this book, just in terms of things that you can do to create a business. And I think even if you're just starting out, these things can be exceptionally useful. All these big companies started out very small, with a very small amount of initial founders and a very small vision and very small budget. And I think you just learn a lot of great business history and lessons and all sorts of stuff. Like for instance, one big thing that they talk about is really discovering and figuring out the core values and principles and goals and purposes of your company, which oftentimes goes far beyond money. And basically the whole idea is that great companies look at money as lifeblood, because without it you will die. But it's oftentimes it's not the number one purpose of the company. They have greater visions, or they're just and they stick to those things. And so Sony was an example of a company that literally started out trying to sell rice cookers. And they had a specific goal and purpose, and so they pivoted and changed and experimented and did a bunch of other stuff unsuccessfully before they eventually started into technology, and look at them now. I think you'll learn great things about hiring and managing people and so forth. And one thing they found in this book was that great companies have a specific way of hiring and managing with people that really reduces turnover and just creates the most amazing employees. The general gist, and again, I'm not someone who likes summarizing. My point is, you really got to check out this book if you want the full explanation. But the general gist is that they take much more time in hiring the right people, rather than just letting mediocre or slightly above average rather than having mediocre or slightly above average people just enter the company. They really take the time, and even if they need someone urgently, they will be patient and wait it out if they haven't found the right person. And then more so than that, if someone is not working out in a role, rather than firing them immediately, they always seek to find if this person can be shifted to a different department or area, because they oftentimes have a lot of skills and knowledge that could possibly work much better in a different area. And they go through all this data and statistics that show how much damage a crappy employee can do of over the lifetime of being in a company, and how amazing a good employee can be if you can find them and keep them, and then get them to the right department or role in that company. It's quite an incredible book, and I can understand now why Microsoft was literally handing this book out. Thanks so much for watching, and of course I have plenty more book reviews, book summaries, whatever you call them, on my YouTube channel, so make sure to check those out, and I'll see you in my next video. Thanks for watching. As always, like and subscribe. Peace.